So with this channel, I wanted to look at Western media that's set in Japan and see how accurately it portrays Japan, according to my experiences like a foreigner living here. And from the outset, like Bullet Train is it's not great. The one thing that strikes me about Bullet Train as well is that it just doesn't look anything like Japan. Like, it's clearly, a big budget film, and people have put a lot of effort into it. Like, doing just like a tiny bit of research for this video, I found that the production crew had made like 3 full trains for the scenes, and on the side of the window they had video footage of like the countryside in Japan going past, so like the actors could get in the scene. So obviously, like, people put effort and hard work into this film, and I don't want to like badmouth their work, but it's just, it doesn't look at all like Japan. And this is like adapted from a Japanese novel, but they changed all the characters into this United Colors of Benetton cast, but they kept the film set in Japan and then didn't film in Japan and didn't have any even like Japanese extras in the film. So why did they make these decisions? It's weird. Back when I was a teenager, I didn't even know where Japan was, and I played things like Shenmue, and I watched movies like Tokyo Fist and the seminal, iconic Battle Royale, and this was like the only experience I had of like seeing Japan. And so I did think Japan was like this crazy, wild, alien place, like so foreign. I know it is foreign, but like extra foreign. But now in the current year, we have like access to so much of like seeing the real Japan, and Japan has become more globalized and less individual itself. And yet Bullet Train still tries to portray Japan as this weird, quirky, neon anime mascot place, and it just, for me, that is not the Japan that I live in. It just doesn't, I can't recognize it at all in this film, and that's how it feels the whole way through. Like this budget Japan, this like inauthentic knockoff. Like, one of the characters is complaining about, I wanted to get a bubble milk tea from a vending machine, and I am intimately familiar with vending machines in Japan, and none of the regular ones sell bubble milk tea. It's not even Japanese, and there's this entire like feeling throughout the film that it's just been made by these like incredibly out of touch, like liberal Hollywood types, and they think like, it's Asian, it's Japanese, we'll just throw that in there. Bubble milk tea. Bullet Train is one of these films that it attempts to have this, they call them like a multi-strand narrative, like films like Snatch or The Place Beyond the Pines or LA Confidential. But that's the point, is that Bullet Train is nowhere near as good as any of those films. And unlike those films, the characters, like stories and pasts, don't connect in any meaningful way. The characters have often met each other before in Bullet Train, but they don't even remember themselves. And they even mention this like in the film, and everything is just a coincidence. There's no overarching plot that drives all these characters into this situation. Everything just feels random. And that's the problem, you know. In a Guy Ritchie film, the characters have witty lines and dialogue and character, and often played by people who are very charismatic. But here in Bullet Train, there's no or very little charisma, you know, besides Brad Pitt and father and son. You know, no one's really got any presence on screen, and that is the biggest difference and why it doesn't work. So we have all these unfunny, uncharismatic characters just explaining the plot to each other, and this is like one of my biggest annoyances in modern film, where they don't show us something, they just have characters tell us how important something is or tell us what's happening in the plot. I hate it. And there are almost no Japanese people in this film. Despite it taking place between Tokyo and Kyoto, two of the most densely populated places in Japan, there's just no Japanese people around. And we have some background characters like Franklin from Scrubs playing this ticket collector. He'll always be Franklin from Scrubs, and that's not to throw any shade on him, you know, iconic character. And then we have Karen Fukuhara playing this concessions girl. So they cast Karen Fukuhara in this role, this tiny minor role, and she gets killed off or knocked out, whatever, later in the film, and replaced by this. And again, I was just thinking, wouldn't it have made more sense for the assassin to have been, you know, a Japanese train worker who could go up and down the car, talk to her targets, and, you know, generally blend in like an assassin all the time? You know, it's this cute concession girl who was bumping people off. It would have made far more sense. I don't care if that's not how it is in the book, because clearly this is not book accurate, you know. And yeah, it would have given a Japanese actress more screen time, and it would have made more sense, right? So at these the train keeps stopping at train stops, and at these train stops, where are all the Japanese people? Where are all the orderly lines and the organized chaos that you see at train stations in Japan? It's bizarre. The whole film feels so inauthentic and fake. And so I feel that the production team, or whoever, the decision maker, the shot caller, wanted to set the film in Japan because it wanted to take advantage of this increased interest in Japan, but at the same time, in no way actually does the film benefit Japan, you know? And this is the thing with Hollywood. They continually pretend that they want to, you know, push diversity, but the reality of what they want to push is just pushing Northern Europeans out and, you know, pushing whomever in. That's my problem. About 10 years ago, I was working, writing articles for this American film website, and I got a job to review Independence Day Resurgence, I think, and it's awful. Don't watch it. But halfway through the film, the main cast go and visit this African warlord. It doesn't say where, but I think it's meant to be the Congo or somewhere. And this African warlord has been combating the aliens and you know, pushing them back and winning. I was just thinking, I want to watch that film. It would have been way more interesting than just the terrible film that we got. You know, some mad, slightly unbalanced African warlord with like AK-47s and machetes, like attacking and fighting aliens, in like guerrilla warfare. Yeah, like that would have been so much better than the film we got, and it would have given like a bunch of actors that don't usually get big roles. It would have given them like good action roles, like, and would have been a better film. Everybody benefits, but they never ever ever want to make those films, right? They just want to change the ethnicity of Jimmy Olsen, right? I want to see General Butt Naked and the Naked Base Commandos versus the aliens from ID4. Make it happen. So by this point, I'm just questioning, why did I choose this film? Especially from my first video. It's not filmed in Japan. There's very few Japanese people in it, and it has no authentic connection to Japan. But I started to think like maybe that's what makes this interesting. So we're finally introduced to the final boss, who's called the White Death, which was my nickname in high school. This Russian gangster who's risen to the top of the Japanese Yakuza with his mixed army of fighters who, despite the fact that he and none of them are Japanese, they wear like Japanese oni masks and suits and carry katana that they can't use at all. I don't think they make a single kill with them. And it's just because someone who was involved in the production of this was like, yes, I saw it in Kill Bill. That's Japanese. Yeah. So, like, why would this boss? Why would he have his people wearing these Japanese masks and wielding Japanese swords that they can't fight with? Like, you just use guns, right? So we get this climax on board the train where the 10,000 times folded katana cuts through the train seat, and all the characters like start talking like they're in a Hideo Kojima game, but again without any of the charisma or wittiness or like interesting plot points. And yeah, so maybe a lot of these points that I've brought up are just, they're not relevant or not interesting, but they are to me, and I think that's what living here these past like almost 4 years now has done. It's like changed my perspective on things. And I've not become Japanese or anything, I'm English and I'll always be English, but yeah, definitely I feel like I have like a connection with Japan now, and that connection is way more substantial than just some fake Hollywood movie could capture. And I realized that like I've become one of these people that when someone's having a conversation about Japan, I can like jump in like, oh well, actually that's not how they do things in Japan. I'm one of those people now. In fact, like living in Japan has made me appreciate and like identify with my roots like far more than I did before, and I feel like I have a unique perspective on things. Most foreigners I meet here are like very like liberal. They come from like very like middle class backgrounds, and I'm probably like the only person from a council estate who's over here doing this type of job, and very like not liberal, I'll say. So I thought that I could share like a lot of like interesting perspectives on life in Japan, and that's what I like to talk about. My experiences in Japan, movies, games, and things like that. So if you're interested in seeing more, my videos are only going to get better. So yeah, leave a comment down below in either English or Japanese, and yeah, I'd love to see what you think. And yeah, like the video, and don't forget to subscribe, because I've got a lot more videos to come now I've got this first one out of the way.